Today we're going to talk about what bottles I was able to get this fall. I am super excited for every bottle on this list, so let's go and jump into it. Okay, the first bottle we're going to talk about is Russell's Reserve 10. Now this is actually a pretty special batch. It is the LLME. If you've been following Rare Bird, he released an article not too long ago talking about this specific batch. I think it is the May release, but he was talking about how this is a return to what the batches used to be. There's no confirmation on what actually went into this blend, but he hypothesized that he thinks there are some 15-year-old barrels in this blend, and that is because Russell's Reserve 15, that was bottled in April, and he is thinking, based on just how well this tastes, that there might have been some leftover barrels that they pulled for that release that just didn't go into that blend, and then they used it for this blend. So I did a review on this specific batch. The link will be somewhere up in the corner. Go check it out. I don't want to give any spoilers, but this is a dang good bottle. Okay, this next bottle on this list is probably the biggest FOMO purchase on the list today, and it is Maker's Mark Cellar Aged from 2024. Now, I don't own any Maker's Mark Cellar Ages. I missed the last year's batch, so I was really excited to see this on the shelf and grab it because I just don't have one. However, the reviews on this batch have been mostly negative. So when I saw it on the shelf, I was really kind of pulled in both ways because I knew how limited this bottle was and I didn't have one, but with the negative reviews on it, I was like questioning if I should pay the $160-180 for this bottle. In addition, I traditionally just don't like Maker's Mark products. They're all very youthful. That wheat funk, I'm just not the biggest fan. But the cool thing about the cellar age is they are much older. Like, this is the oldest release that Maker's has ever done. It's also on a higher proof range. This is coming in at 119. Their picks, typically might be up to like 110. So seeing one here at 119 is pretty cool too. But the FOMO got the best of me, considering that I couldn't have gotten this bottle unless I bought it when I bought it. I went ahead and purchased it. But don't get me wrong, I am truly grateful for having the opportunity to purchase this bottle. I know there are tons of people out there that would give up an arm and a leg to even have the chance to purchase this bottle at MSRP. So I am truly grateful I got the opportunity to buy it. And I look forward to opening it and just, fingers crossed, I enjoy it more than some of the reviews that have been out there. And the next bottle we're gonna talk about is Barstown Discovery 12. This is probably one of the more hyped bottles that came out this year. On the side, it has a ton of older Kentucky recipes, mash bills, and it includes older wild turkey product. With the Russell's 15 coming out, everyone went bananas over it. So whenever they can find another somewhere source that has sourcing product from that mash bill with that age, people are gonna jump over for it and try and get it. And this is one of those bottles. Now, I don't think this really has much of the turkey profile in it though. If you really want that turkey profile, go get batch 11 if you can still find it. I know it was a massive release and it sat around here for a while. I think you can still potentially find it in the area, but that had much more of the wild turkey note. This to me reminds me a lot more of like Heaven Hill, as like maybe a really good Elijah Craig that's been watered down a little bit. I really enjoyed it. It tastes like a true Kentucky bourbon. Many people are saying this could be top 10 of the year. I don't know if it's gonna make the top 10, but it's definitely gonna go on my list at the end of the year. If you're interested in my end of the year blind, it's gonna have this, Russell's 15. It's gonna have the Old Fitz 13. What else is gonna be in this? Maker's Mark Cellar Age. Gosh, there's tons of bottles that came out this year. 13 Colony 15th anniversary, Heaven Hill 18. I'm gonna have a ton of massive hitters in this end of the year blind. Hit that subscribe button, that way you don't miss it. It's gonna be very interesting to see what makes it into the top 10 and what wins bottle of the year. Okay, the next one on this list is actually a brand I didn't know about until like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it is the Kentucky Senator. So the reason I didn't know too much about it is they have pretty limited distribution. It's only really in Kentucky, and then in DC, Jack Rose has a couple bottles. But the reason the distribution is so limited is because they only do single barrels, and then they do small batch blends, which are, I think, almost about 5 barrels. So the releases are pretty small in this. They did a vertical of 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-old whiskey, with the latest release being a 9-year-old. You can find that right now at Jack Rose or at liquor barns in Kentucky. But this one I have here is the 7-year, and this one was probably my favorite, if not my second favorite, with the 9-year. So I don't know if I'm allowed to discuss the source on this whiskey, but if you do look at the mash bill online, you can probably have a pretty good idea. It is Kentucky based, and they are well known for sourcing whiskey. But if you live in the Kentucky area, definitely go out and see if you can find the 9, because they're switching over to a different source of whiskey going forward. They're releasing some new products, I think, coming out next year, and it's gonna be a different source, different mash bill. So the cool thing about these bottles is each batch is named after a Kentucky senator, and one of the founders of this brand is actually himself a Kentucky senator. So I'm excited for the day that they release a batch with him on it, because if he's willing to put his name on it, that has probably be one of the best batch, if not the best batch they've ever put out. And the next one is a brand that probably lines up with my palate the most, and it is Stag. This one specifically is 24B. This is also a bottle I recently did a review on. You can check on the link above. But these Stag batches, time and time again, are some of the best whiskey in my opinion. It just lines up with my palate. I love that rich sweetness you get from these batches, along with that oak note, deep jam sometimes. I love those deep, rich notes, caramel, that you traditionally get in these well-aged oak products, along with it being barrel proof. This is just a hard bottle to beat. They come in at $50. At $50, these are a buy every day. However, they're almost impossible to find. The secondary on them, I think is roughly around like $150 now. If you've never gotten a Stag, it's fine paying $150 for it. That is about the price that many LEs are coming out, and I think this beats a ton of LEs. Definitely do your research though, watch a couple reviews, see if there's a batch that is universally liked, and then hunt for that specific batch. But you really can't go wrong with any of the batches. I'm just, if you're gonna pay up on secondary, you might wanna do a little research on specific batches. But this bottle leads into my next 2 bottles, and that is 2 Stag store picks. Stag store picks have been the bottles that I've been hunting for most, and that is because I really enjoy the Stag profile. So find a bottle you like and then start hunting store picks of those bottles, because you're gonna find some of the best versions of those batches. The single barrels aren't gonna be exactly like the batches, but they're gonna showcase a prominent note from those batches. So if you really love the oak note you get, there'll be some single barrels out there that just shine through on that oak. If you really love sometimes the simple sweetness that you can get from them, there'll be some batches that are better than that. So I just love all around the profile of Stag. So these store picks, whatever aspect they're highlighting of the general Stag profile, I am probably really gonna enjoy. Also, a lot of times with these store picks, you can find aspects of them that are a little unique compared to a traditional Stag batch. For instance, this one here is 137 proof. I don't know if they've ever done a batch version at that high. Typically they're in the low 130s, maybe high 120s. So to see one at 137 proof is really cool. So I'm excited to open that one to see how it is. And then this pick is actually older than most Stag batches. This one is coming in at 9.5 years old. Traditionally, Stag batches are anywhere from 9 to 10 years old. There isn't an age statement on the batches, but just rumor is they're around that age. So to find one of these picks that is a little older than that is really cool. So I'm excited to see this one, to see if it has maybe more oak notes than a traditional batch. And if it does, I'll probably really dig this bottle, because I just love the oak notes in those Stags. Okay, the next bottle I was able to grab is the latest Wild Turkey release. It is the Wild Turkey 70th Jimmy Russell's anniversary bottle. Jimmy Russell has been a legend in the whiskey industry, and for him to be that long at a distillery, I don't know if it's ever going to be replicated. He is just basically he is synonymous with Wild Turkey, and I'm really glad they did this release for his 70th anniversary. He really loves those kind of younger wild turkey products, traditionally in that like 6, 7, 8, maybe up to 9 years old, blending together at that perfect 101 proof in his opinion. He is just a massive fan of that Wild Turkey 101 profile. And so for them to do this blend, I think just lines up with who he is. Like if they released some ultra age like Russell's 15 and just put his face on it, I don't think that would have the same appeal because Russell's 15 is not Jimmy. Jimmy doesn't like those really old age products. And traditionally, also Jimmy to me reminds me more of like the working man. And for them to do, you know, a $50 release bottle that is more available for people, this was actually supposedly one of the biggest, if not the biggest release they've ever done of a limited edition. So for them to do it at a lower price point, a big release that a lot of people get access to it, I think more represents Jimmy than if they did some $300, $400 bottle that, you know, didn't really line up with Jimmy's values, his taste profile. So that's one of the reasons I love this bottle and wanted to go grab it. At the end of the day, for you guys out there though, this reminds me of a Kentucky Spirit. It's just an elevated traditional 101. And I'm happy to pay that $50 for it. It doesn't drink like a super special whiskey. It just drinks like a well-rounded, good Wild Turkey product. But fingers crossed that Jimmy stays healthy and can make it to 75 years so we can see another release from Wild Turkey honoring the Jimmy Russell legacy. Okay, this next bottle is actually one of the more unique bottles I got, and it is the Pursuit Double Oaked. Now, what I love about this bottle is the double oaking they do. A lot of times when you have a double oaked, it just gets really toasted, marshmallow, a ton of oak, almost too much oak, and it really just gets, you know, it's not really balanced, and it's just really heavy on those profiles. But what's really cool about this double oak is I get this butterscotch note. It's almost impossible for me to find that butterscotch note in many bourbons today. I'll often find that butterscotch note on like very, very old Wild Turkey products, but to get access to those bottles, you're gonna have to pay a ton of money. So for these bottles, you're looking at, I think they're, I wanna say 70-ish maybe. I'm trying to remember how much I paid for it. But to get a bottle for that price, you aren't gonna be able to beat it, to be able to find another bottle that has that same type of butterscotch note. So this is a perfect bottle to grab to learn what that note means when people tell you they're getting a butterscotch note. This is almost exactly it. And I just an absolute big fan of that. If I find more of these, I am going to buy them because I really want that, and it's just such a unique profile than almost every other whiskey that I own. The one caveat I will throw out there is there has been some rumors that the later batches haven't been as on profile with that butterscotch note. It's still there, but it's not as great as batch one. So if you can get a sample of these, definitely try it before. I don't know if you're really going to be able to though, because this bottle just flies off the shelf in any area I've seen it. So you're probably just gonna have to take a risk, buy it, and hope that it has that richness of a butterscotch note. It'll have it, it just might not be as rich as batch one. Okay, the next one we're gonna talk about is a semi-discontinued bottle, but not really. A couple years ago, the Early Times brand was sold to Sazerac. Along with it, a lot of the barrels that went into making these blends. And there's a lot of people out there that say pre and post Sazerac ownership, there is a different profile to it. However, you can tell the pre and post is the pre-Sazerac bottles have a black purple top here, whereas the current ones that are blended by Sazerac have a blue metal screw on top. So when I saw this bottle, I just had to get it because you just can't get it anymore. It's an old blend from the previous owner of Early Times, and people universally say these blends were much better. So I'm excited to open this, check it out, and see if there is truth to it. I personally have not tried both, so I'm interested to jump in and see if I agree with the consensus out there. Okay, so the last bottle we're going to talk about here today is the Jack Daniel's Distillery Series. This one specifically is the twice barreled Tennessee Straight Rye. When I saw this release, I was pretty excited for it because if you remember a couple years back in the Heritage bottles, which is Jack Daniel's annual release, it was a twice barreled rye similar to this, and this one is at a higher proof. So just given those stats, I was more than happy to grab this bottle. I also am a super big fan of how they do 375s of these. I really wish more distillers would do 375 releases of their limited bottles. It would get into more hands, more people could try the bottle. And to be honest, I just don't need a full 750 of whiskey. There's just so much stuff coming out that I can never get through a full bottle before the next release comes out. So for me personally, I would pay a slight premium. I know there's more cost, there's more glass that goes into it, more production, shipping, all that stuff probably to do more bottles like that, but I would pay that premium. And in theory, under that system, I should be able to actually get more different types of whiskeys because in theory, I should get 2 bottles for what I was getting 1 bottle. But I have to say for this specific release, this one hit the mark for me. It's fine whiskey. I enjoy it. I will drink this whiskey. There's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't live up to the hype in my head I have for this bottle. And many other of the distillery releases are much better. If you can get any of the stuff that's, I think there's like a maple one that's decent, a toasted one that's pretty good. So if you can find a couple of the other distillery releases, I would go for those. But if you got this, you aren't gonna be disappointed. It's a good bottle. It just doesn't necessarily live up to the hype I had in my head for it. So that is my haul from fall. I was super fortunate on all the bottles I was able to get, but let me know in the comments what you were able to get this fall. And if you're enjoying this content, before you head out, check out this video or this one. And until next time, cheers.